Welcome back, everyone, to the SMITE Pro League here in Season 10, the Kickoff. And it's all started right here, right now. And, of course, it has been a very fun day. It's going to be Gore and, of course, Shelly. But before we get into this desk, I do want to inform you, especially for those of you out there who are Twitch Prime members, you can actually get a very, very special skin right now. You can get the Heistblade Pele with Prime Gaming. Actually, right about like there should be a crown that you can just click on. It's going to have a ton of rewards for you, and you'll be able to find that, as well as skins for Paladins, Rogue Company occasionally that get thrown up there as well. So make sure that you go and redeem that now while you can. Get yourself the Pele skin and go get your game on. I've seen a lot of really good Pele plays over the last few days, and that is double-edged because I have been playing and queued up with the person who's been jungling for me, and they've carried me. So that's really been, it's a mutual benefit. I get carried, and they get stuck with me. Maybe it's not mutually beneficial. Either way, it's Gormeiser, it's Trelly. We're going to be watching the Warriors take on the Ravens. Now, Trelly, this one I'm really excited for. You look at, I think, the roster for the Ravens first, just real quick. The Haddix coming back with BaRRA, with Vin, but adding Scream, adding Hurry, a lot of interesting things there. Of course, Coach now Neil Ma standing behind them. But it's this Warriors squad behind me that catches my eye.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the most, because coming into the season, I do not know. We know every player on this team. I have no idea what they Voltron into.
And that's the thing, right? This was one of those teams that we were asked, when looking at them, to sort of, scale how good we thought each team would do. And the Oni Warriors in particular was one that was either really good or really bad. Like, how do these teams mesh together? I know that SOT and Pegon play ranked together a lot. That's about the only information I have. I know Panitom and Netrioid teamed once upon a go. That's pretty much it. So how's it going to come together? I'm excited to see, because I'm tired of just, guessing.
Yeah, you had mentioned it, though. You're right. Watching this team, mechanical nature of the Oni Warriors is what comes to mind the most. A lot of guys in there who are known top to bottom for what kind of mechanics they can leave. Also, notably, I think, Mifflin, who is not an Oni Warrior. That one too.
No.
not the greatest mechanical player.
Not at all.
But a lot that you have, including Sot, right, Panitom, Pegon, you had mentioned. Jake we saw sitting in the booth there alongside Netrioid and Oxy. And so a lot, I think, that this team is going to bring to the table. Good coaching immediately, I think, up front, just because of how they've been coached in the past, or what we've seen Oxy, his long tenure at this point of what he's accomplished. And then a lot of players that, again, on these teams, we've seen what they can provide. The question is, what can they do with the pieces around them, right? A Netrioid Jake duo lane. For anyone who last year was playing in SPL Fantasy, which, by the way, it is going on again this year if you wanted to get in on that. But this feels like that's a fantasy duo lane, Trelly. That is not something that you get in the league, or at least it doesn't feel like it would maybe be something in the league. But instead, what we're going to get here is Jake, what we've seen, a guy who's really good at pressing the buttons. What is he going to bring next to Netrioid, another guy who's really good when it comes down to making sure things stick up mechanically?
And that's what I think this team looks like from the outside looking in. It's sort of just a bunch of mechanically solid players, putting them together and hoping they build that synergy up. They've had plenty of time to do so, so I imagine we should be looking at quite an interesting first set here from the Oni Warriors. I'm hoping to see all of their sort of playstyles mesh together, right? The different style of solo laners, some hard carry junglers, definitely some different style of mid laners from Pegon, and awesome Jake, sort of just sticking to the tried and true, whatever's top meta at the time in the support role, but being pretty darn good at those picks as well.
Pegon, oh man, I almost forgot this kill happened. Absolutely insane on the Ul. And that's, again, the thing. I think you could say that. We could pull out highlight reels, montages for days. I mean, you're talking hit markers, air horns, whatever you need to make those things happen. And they're all going to be fantastic. They're all going to be phenomenal. The question everyone has on this team is how they look together. Shot calling is a question mark. Obviously, coaching, we know Oxy's incredibly good at it, but what this crew is going to bring to the table, and that's what this kickoff is for, we're going to find out. Of course, on the other side, now with Coach Neil Ma, who's going to be leading the way, we've got a very interesting composition. 3 players that you would maybe remember from the Olympus Bolts before Haddix had actually left the team to join the Leviathans prior. So rejoining Vin and BaRRA. And then you pick up Scream, who, I mean, just absolutely insane year overall last year, even before when he got picked up. And, of course, in the past that he's played. And Hurry, who, admittedly, the only thing I'm lamenting is the fact that he doesn't get to swap in for either me or you while we're sitting here on the desk.
Yep.
Very, very good mind on the game, very eloquent thinker as well, good shot caller, as we've seen in the past. That swap from mid to support has been very big for them. And it feels like they're taking some of the essence that maybe the Bolts had going well for them at the start of last year, Trelly, and adding in maybe some of the elements, consistency maybe from Scream, shot calling, and maybe vocalization from Hurry that's really going to open up the conversation for him.
Yeah, having gotten the opportunity to speak to Hurriwind about how he approaches the game at a competitive level, I think, he's always going to bring something good to any team that he's on. I think it's something that they weren't thinking about, something, whether it comes to picks and bans, whether it comes to draft specifically, it just seems like he's always, putting that brain to use, which I think is something that the core three of the Bulls definitely needed. Haddix, BaRRA, and Ven have seen some great success, but never really found that championship they've been after. And with that, adding Scream as well, who has been playing at such a high caliber as a jungler for such a long time. I mean, no matter what team he's on, you're going to see him making a splash. I think that really does cement this team together as an interesting one to watch. I know for a fact the fans have the Highland Ravens ranked pretty highly just by roster alone. And we'll see if they can live up to that hype, because I'm excited for it.
Well, Haddix is always a player, I think, that needs to be highlighted, right? When you jump into some of these conversations, you look at BaRRA, right? Season 1 world champion, been in the game for a long time. Real close, 23 kills away from 2,500. Joining a very, very select and dare I say it, elite crew.
Oh, it's elite.
That he's going to bring maybe to the table with him. But what you also get is the fact that, well, there's some people like you talk about Season 6, and he tells you, please don't talk about Season 6, right? You talk about the last few years, and yeah, there's been improvements, but there's always those iffy conversations depending on who you talk to. But you look at the other side, right? Haddix, who has been a much more recent addition to the league, who has been a much more, I want to say, explosive player so far. I mean, highest KDA regular season gameplay last year, 4.9, good 0.5 over what Big Man Things was able to bring to the table. So a really, really, I think, interesting amalgamation of players. I think all of them have the mechanics down pat, right? BaRRA's been playing this game. He's still in the league for this long for a reason. Vin, who's been sticking around, Hurry, who's still sticking around, all of them bringing something different to the table. And again, the question is just how well they mesh. I'm seeing a lot of smiles, a lot of laughter, which is typically what we got with the pre, let's call them Bolts, what they were able to bring, that atmosphere, right? A bunch of dudes that felt like they were hanging out, maybe having fun. That's what I'm getting from the Ravens right now, Trelly. Really interested to see what this team is going to do, especially against the maybe unquantifiable, at least to us, the unknowns that are the Oni Warriors.
And I love that we panned from Hurriwind dancing to the most deadpan stare I've ever seen from Haddix. He is just locked in. And of course,
that is mostly his resting face.
No,
that's
for
what's
sure.
wild.
But it's like the back three are very happy to be here, smiles all around, and Haddix is just like, we must win. That's what I'm assuming he's just repeating in his head at all times. And as you said, highest KD player, that is quite the honor to behold. You got to make sure you're not getting farmed, though. You got to make sure you're locked in. So it seems like something to be considered. We've already been talking about meta a ton with the fact that we haven't seen too much competitive play on this patch. In fact, none. This is the first we're going to get to see of it. Every game since the first this morning, we've been seeing some new pick that's really highly prioritized. This game especially. I mean, with SOT, with Pegon, with Jake, and then, of course, with Scream, Van, Haddix, I think all of them have the opportunity to pull out something that we didn't expect. Of course, BaRRA's going to play one of three gods. We already know that. We're going to ignore those. But everyone else has the opportunity to show us some interesting stuff. So couldn't be more excited for this one to get started.
Yeah, I think this one, much like you said, is just going to have a lot of fun in it. Pegon versus Vin, a very, very fun matchup. We've gotten to see a few times. When you look at the stats, I'm always interested in some of these things. Career-wide, you can see, first off, the longevity that Vin has had, so maybe attributing to some of the numbers being a little larger. But realistically, you are seeing a player, I think, in Pegon that in very little time has been a insane addition to the league.
Oh, yeah.
To the point, I believe, if I remember correctly, got the Golden Bolt for Rookie of the Year last year, much deserved, and honestly has been on a very fun trajectory, a career that I think everybody would say they're very excited to watch where it goes, how it continues, especially considering about this time a couple months ago, he wasn't even sure if he was going to be playing this year in the SBL. Glad to have him back in the studio. And, of course, glad to see what he's going to do here in game number 1 as we jump into picks in Bans. Warriors taking the first pick over the Ravens. Also got to talk about how great that Ravens logo looks. I think it was the talk of the town all of last year whenever we were in the SEC. All the players were talking about it. Talked about it on the world stage. And I think that's why they jumped on it. You had mentioned meta, though, zooming back in towards this game 1. Hercules. Seen a lot of Hell bans, Aphrodite bans. Really, really excited to see where the Warriors go with theirs. Is there anything other than like the main healers? Like what else has been standing out to you?
I mean, definitely the Hercules. Of course, Ishtar and Cern have been very highly prioritized by pretty much every team that you can see. The Mercury is a jungler that I think a lot of these teams as well have been looking towards, so probably smart to take that one away. And also the Terra. I mean, that's a slippy ban that's been coming through. I know I've seen a bunch of buzz on social media, but not so much like in ranked play, probably because Terra's one of those characters that's a bit trickier to pilot. I think you have to be pretty skilled at the god. You can't just, there's some gods that kind of play themselves. Terra's not one. You have to know all the mechanics, all the little niche interactions with her abilities. So probably something comp only, but still definitely highly prioritized by these SPL teams. So those are kind of the bans that are sticking out to me. I imagine Afro is going to follow as well. I don't think that pick will be getting through at all for this weekend, and it looks like that will be the case. Susano and Afro being taken away by the Ravens makes sense.
Definitely. I mean, so far, like you said, standard bans for what we've come to expect. It was always fun, actually. You go back, I think it was yesterday I was watching BaRRaCCuDDa stream, maybe it was 2 days ago. And someone had asked him, like, oh, hey, what kind of things can we expect in the kickoff tournament? He just leans back and he goes, man, it's been a fiesta in scrims. He's like, there's so many changes, so much that went on. And they got to get hands-on with the patch a little early. But even still, there's only so much you can do, which I think has been the interesting topic for this tournament, right? Varied starts as well as varied god pools. Susano, Aphrodite, Terra banned out by the Ravens, Yamoja, Mercury, and the Hercules banned out by the Warriors. Hell has been a little bit of a conversation lately.
Yeah.
Afro, I think everybody's on the consensus that if she makes it through, somebody's made a mistake somewhere. Where do you stand on Hell overall? Is that a must ban as we've been seeing, or is she someone that you can still deal with?
No, I think we've seen answers to Hell already. No matter the buffs, no matter how well she's played, you can still dive her, and I think that's something that, sure, you don't want to deal with that healing, you don't want to deal with that damage, that's fine. Banning her is certainly acceptable, but she's not an end-all be-all. There are answers, so with that, we're not seeing it immediately.
Yeah.
First pick. The Oni Warriors are putting more value on the Cernunnos, so they're actually going to take the Cern over the Ishtar, given the opportunity. It's obviously the 1-2. There's no way Ishtar doesn't get picked up in the top 3. There's no way Cern doesn't get picked up in the top 3, more often than not. But
Ooh.
we get to see Haddix on the Cthulhu once again, something that we saw many, many times in the past. And wow, it is going to be the Erlang Shen run back. I mean, we saw Lazar play it earlier today. Was not impressed, did not think it was a pick that needed to weasel his way back into the meta.
But he's here.
Pun intended, but he's here.
We'll see. Sorry, that one got me twice.
I appreciate it.
We'll see what he ends up doing here. Surprised, and maybe not too surprised, right? With Kern being picked up first, you had mentioned it. Aphrodite has a 100% ban rate as of right now. Kern has a 100% pick ban, where he's been picked up about 85-86% of the day so far, 6 games. It's been very, very big for him. We'll see whether or not he continues that route, or sorry, not if he continues that route, if that's going to be worthwhile, but that is what helps balance out. You don't need the Ishtar immediately. If you want her, now's the time to maybe pick her up if you're the Ravens. Otherwise, it might be a pretty easy ban. We got the Erlang Shen. You mentioned it, seeing it earlier. Cthulhu, maybe we can dive in and talk about that a little, but I'm interested in the Habwa, the Horus that get locked in. At least Horus we've seen a little bit of. We know why he's around. Where's this Hebo coming into the equation?
I mean, I imagine it's either going the way of the jungle or the mid, as it usually does. I think Pegon has a proficiency to play it, but he also likes to look for those aggressive style of picks. If he wants a physical mid laner, then maybe Panitom says, hey, I'll take it into the jungle. In that case, they've got a crazy amount of burst damage, they've got some quick farm, and at level 5, they got an insta-kill button. That's what Hebo brings,
Yeah.
and that's why he's prioritized whenever he is. With that being said, you have the option to get focused out by the enemy jungler, but Erlang Shen, I mean, I don't think he has a good time just trying to bully Hebo consistently. You really need that extra level of dive, so that's probably where the Cthulhu's coming in, the Nox possibly going the way of support, because I haven't seen too much mid Nox as of recent.
Yeah, it has been a pick that the Ravens aren't unused to having in the support if they lock it in, but maybe not something I'm used to seeing Hurriwind's name next to, right? It has been Jake with them
And that's
over the
why
last
it's
year.
bugging me. Jake's over there,
yeah.
but Nox is over here.
Well, and then on top of that, Jake's win rate on that Nox when playing with them was absolutely insane. I guess we'll get to see if it was the team around him or if it was Jake himself as the Ravens lock that one in. Still, a little bit of wiggle room. Hell gets banned out here by the Warriors in the second phase. Odin banned out by the Ravens. Granted, given their god pool, makes a lot of sense. If you are the Warriors, Trelly, how worried are you about the Ishtar? Are you worried enough that maybe you're banning it in the second slot, or are you letting it through?
In my mind, if they didn't pick the Ishtar, they weren't worried about it, right? They picked the Cern for a reason. They knew it was going to get picked, and then it wasn't. So A, they know Bear's not going to take it, or B, they're not worried about it in the slightest. That's probably the case here. It's one of those things where if it's not first picked, Bear was probably not looking towards it anyways. He just wants to go to his Jing ways, his souls.
I was going to mean the Jing way.
Yeah, he's got a god pool, and Bear sticks to the god pool. He never gets out of that pool, so I imagine that's the call. But if Bear is saying on stream that it was a fiesta, maybe he was looking at some different style of metas. Maybe he was trying out different picks. He's been around a while, so he does have the opportunity to play different styles. He's got the Apollo, of course, those sort of things. So point is, I don't see a reason to ban the Ishtar. If it's made it this far, either the Warriors don't care about it, the Ravens don't care about it, or both.
We'll see. Their last ban still yet to be coming through. Oh, Wheelish banned out by the Ravens. At that point, maybe just taking shots, knowing exactly what kind of things Panitom likes to play up against. And well, he's been very prominent on that pick. Plus, they've got knockups already in the team. Maybe trying to limit a little more. Hachiman is going to be locked in. That is actually a pass ban that is down there. And Trelly, I was going to I don't even know where to start. The jokes, first off, Ishtar looks like, unless something goes astray here for the Ravens, is going to lose the 100% pick ban. I was going to joke that Hachi was BaRRa's second most played god with like almost 40 games under what the Jingwei has. But he's gone for the Hachi. I mean, we are seeing stuff out of the Ravens that we really haven't gotten to see as much from the other teams.
Yeah, this is wild to me. I mean, Hachi is a fun god. Is he the best available? Almost never. Just because of once the interaction with his ult and his dash were changed, and Ishtar came out and has a very similar ranged auto attack, but let's be honest, it's just better. Hachi sort of went, you know, not in the trash can, but very close to the trash can. It looks like BaRRA still likes that dash interaction. That's pretty much the only reason you'd be looking for it. A great initiation, great escape tool, but there are plenty of other gods that bring that same level. He is fun, though, and if that's the call, then hey, I'm not going to knock BaRRA for it. ADCs can kind of have their pick of the litter at this point. They just build crit and play safe, and Hachi can do that just fine. With that being said, walls are not Hachi's favorite. You can't Horus away. When there's a Ymir behind you, you can't Horus away. When there's a Thor behind you, and in this case, it looks like you're not going to be Horusing away from, I'm assuming, SOT on the Horus. It's a bit confusing, but your chase down potential is there for the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, I think that they have a lot to work with. Like you said, maybe playing into Jake's strengths with the Ymir pickup and playing into the Ravens' weaknesses. I mean, you've got 4 gods that just won't deal with the wall well at all, and one that has a very long cooldown that he has to deal with. So maybe pressure's on Merlin locked in, kind of standard from what we've seen with the Ravens throwing us for a little loop. Same thing for the Warriors. If you are looking at this, you know, Thor and Horus we've seen kind of played in off roles, right? I'm assuming because of the Ymir Horus, it feels like Horus going to Sot.
Yep.
If you are looking at mid matchups, the Hebo and the Merlin's been doing real good so far this year. I mean, you know, today we've got a little bit of data, but when you roll it back and we look towards the play-in tournament, there was a lot of Merlin being played. Do you like him in comparison to the Hebo? I know they bring very different things to the table.
They bring different things, but one thing that Hebo brings that Merlin has trouble is incredible poke and fight potential. Merlin really does want to use his abilities on the wave, get in, get out, because his cooldowns are much longer. Hebo can just spam his abilities and try and poke you out, look for that one shot. If you're weak enough and get water spouted, you're dead, because here comes Crushing Wave. So I'm thinking trying to bully Merlin could be a possibility, or more specifically Merlin staying very far back, not going for too much poke, and just throwing abilities and just prioritizing farm. That's how most mid laners play every way. That's not really how Pegon likes to play.
Yeah.
He likes to hide around corners, try and find 1v1s, look for solo kills, and I think Hebo brings that better than just about anyone else. You know, if you can find that knock up around a corner, you're in a pretty good opportunity to find a kill.
Something I think, again, just very excited to see how this Oni Warriors draft plays together. Team fight is where we have to think about it. And granted, I know this is going to be difficult because we've talked about mechanically, individually what the Warriors have. How do these gods on their side, do you feel, mesh together?
It's interesting because of what they're up against, right? You have to look at Cthulhu and say, okay, we have to play around Cthulhu.
Yep.
Like, no matter what, if Cthulhu's nearby or has teleport, you got to think, how's the Cthulhu ult? If you can avoid that, they've got plenty of bursts, they got lockdown, but it's hard to do.
Well, we'll finally get the question answered here. We're going to jump into game number 1, Warriors versus Ravens. It's JMac and Mifflin.
It is our final set of the day and the final best of 3 of our kickoff tournament. Our final 2 teams, the Oni Warriors and the Highland Ravens. Only one will move on to day 2 of play. The other one will have to sit back and watch as their fate is decided by other teams moving in through the division drafting that will happen at the very end. It is J-Mac, Miff, and Doug for game number 1 of our 4th set of the day. And I was kind of curious as to where this Horus was going to land out after we saw the Ymir locked in. It will be SOT piloting the Horus. Not something uncommon seeing this god over in the solo lane, Miff.
No, just decent laning phase. Once you get Golden Blade, for the most part, you're wave clear, just strong enough that you're not really struggling, especially against something like Cthulhu, which is not necessarily a lane bully. I think you can take something that has a bit less pressure. And then it's about rotating before the Cthulhu can get involved. It's something Trelly brings up on the desk. If Cthulhu's on the map, if he's got ultimate, you have to be concerned about it. Well, if SOT gets the jump on these rotations, maybe he can make it happen before he gets there. I'm looking at this jungle start, though. Slightly different from both teams. Speed soloed by the Erlang Shen. Scream likely just going to head over to the other one on his own, whereas it's a 2-split. Red by jungle and mid. Panitom and Pegon on the other side. Where does that leave experience? Scream slightly behind, but that does give Pegon and Panitom both level 2. I wonder, if it's pressure in mid, where do you take it with Scream already clearing all that left side jungle? Might just be about controlling those neutral camps for now.
We saw a start like this one from BaRRaCCuDDa, the exact same situation, except he was running Mannequin's Erlang Shen at the time to do so, where he took right side speed, or the solo lane side speed, and then went to the opposite, and it took that little chess camp as well. But
what's the chess camp called? We call it Thief Camp, Cyclops Camp?
I guess the Cyclops camp is the best way. I call it the chess camp because that's the icon that pops up with it,
Okay,
but probably
yeah,
the Cyclops camp is probably the more accurate term to go with it. The camp that gives you some extra gold whenever you take out the chess.
Yeah, if you're losing.
If you're losing. Well, I think you get like a little bit even if you're winning, but it's like significantly less than if you're losing. It's a good comeback mechanic for teams that are behind. It's part of, at least from what I've been noticing, why we haven't seen gold leads really spiral out of control so far.
Yeah, every 1,000 gold behind, you spawn up an additional chest, which gives you additional gold. The enemy team can roll through and steal it away from you, but it doesn't give the gold to them. Instead, it just returns it to the ether. That gold goes nowhere.
Scream, blink on a SOT, body blocked away, dashes away from the tower, and manages to get the blink just in time. SOT, narrow margins for him to make it out of there. Ends up buying just enough time to escape.
Any other relic, he's just dead. Blink forward from Jake, returned horrific. As Hurriwind locks it down, and wall off the mark means BaRRaCCuDDa should be able to escape as well. A lot of early action comes up empty for both sides this time around. SOT narrowly survives. The same can be said of BaRRaCCuDDa on the right-hand side. But it is not without wins and losses here or there. Beads off of BaRRaCCuDDa for the next 2 to 3 minutes. Blink loss for Scream, as well as Horrific down for Hurry. It's a Relic Wasteland on both sides. And in a Relic Wasteland, junglers tend to benefit. And one jungler maybe more so. Panitom has a great target in the duo lane for the first couple of levels. Once you get access to the ultimate on Hachiman, he just becomes one of the safest hunters.
Scream going for part 2 of a gank this time on Panitom, but no hammer expended by Panitom on the last camp means he can use it to get away from Scream this time around. And beads were still available for Panitom regardless to be able to escape from that. Level 4s across the board for the Oni Warriors as Jake goes for an invade. And the topside purple camp finds the double freeze. Netrioid comes back of the wall, blocks off BaRRaCCuDDa and Hurriwind's pathing out. BaRRaCCuDDa low, but a target selection by both allows, well, for really both the Highland Ravens to be able to make it out of that one.
Yeah, wall nearly perfect there. Jake has to make a split decision. Do I throw up the wall now and separate myself from them and potentially lock them both down for Netrioid, or maybe hold it and try and catch that dash? Throws up the wall instantly, but the DPS loss from Ymir's Frostbite may have let those kills escape. So once more, a good attempt. The Oni Warriors nearly able to hit Paydirt on the left-hand side, but pathing, and defensive pathing at that, from the Highland Ravens, able to escape narrowly.
So T, even after the gank earlier on, doesn't seem to have slowed him down any up against Haddix on that right-hand side. Still aiming for the Golden Blade, where I'd imagine probably Pythag's piece once more for Haddix, kind of reprising that old style of solo Cthulhu, even solo Guardian kind of build. We've been seeing a lot of change-ups in the build, though, Mifflin. As of this 10.3, we've been seeing a lot less of the stacking items in particular. Book of Thoughts seems to have fallen by the wayside by the mages. Devourer's Gauntlet out of meta for a lot of the hunters as well. Even Tablet of Destinies haven't seen any of that pop up so far in this new patch.
No, it's just these old items that have had slight bumps to their power level have just become so strong. Spear of Desolation, just absolutely dominant. BaRRaCCuDDa
dunks down on, and nowhere for BaRRaCCuDDa to go. The beads were just 15 seconds away from coming back through, but Pegon versus Venenu, it's a tale as old as time. As once again, Pegon gets another 1v1 against Venenu. Feels like Season 9 all over again for the mids.
Ben's thinking to himself, not again, not again, not again. Pegon beads just in time. And kiting on the Atlas of the Yellow River nearly escapes, but Scream able to shut him down. Aggressive pathing for Pegon leaves him high and dry, and Scream able to easily rotate through and swing it even further in favor of his team. Just find some sort of return. Netrioid, though, is he in some trouble now? Avoids the Shadow Lock. That's about what you'd expect from the early game. You want Scream involved as quickly as possible, especially considering the itemization difference between these two jungles. Panitom, Transcendence first slot, scales very well, but needs time to scale.
Hurriwind, no mana left, able to expend the last of it for his dash to get away from Jake and Netrioid. And I'll kind of let you maybe expand a little bit on the Transcendence, because kind of up until now, the name of the game has really been Jotun's Wrath, first item. If you're an ability-based assassin, if you're auto-attack, typically Golden Blade. Maybe what the, talk a little bit on the change-up here. It's Transcendence instead for Panitom.
I mean, we'd seen it from adapting a little bit earlier as well. It's just great power infusion. If you're going to go not down the eye of the jungle path, getting that additional mana probably helps you with your sustain in the jungle. Scale pretty decently if you want to move in towards Bruiser second slot. That additional power that Transcendence affords you could make that a bit of an easier transition. Me personally, I'm going to buy Jotuns until they remove it. I'm not, as a jungler, I will never learn another first item start. That item just absolutely ridiculous. But Transcendence, certainly one that scales very well, especially into that mid game. But it does slow you down a fair bit. It might be that Panitom has just decided Erlang Shen's going to outscale me in the early. I don't want to fight too often, so instead I'll keep my eyes for a little bit later in the game. And if that's the case, Transcendence is the way to go.
And maybe kind of speaking on that, you know, as mentioned earlier, we did see the Erlang Shen from Lasbra in our set earlier on today, that second set, and it was a Mannequin scepter out of him first, as opposed to this time around, we're seeing an Eye of the Jungle. Do you think that that's maybe kind of playing into the play style and maybe the momentum that each of these two teams want to run with?
Personally, I just think the Mannequin's upgrades are bad comparatively. Like, Protector of the Jungle is just a ridiculous stat stick, or if you want Seer of the Jungle, it simplifies every single team fight around the Fire Giant, the ability to clear every ward every time, very valuable. And that just goes to show what we just saw from Pegon, how strong Spear of Desolation really is now. Scream's gotta play concerned going forward. Was a 3-1, did, what, 20, 30% of his HP? Throw an ult on that and you just kill him.
Scream goes in on Pegon. Freeze lands on a Scream who has nothing going for him. Able to turn on just in time, got the heal, and that might be the only thing that kept him alive, but Jake and Pegon are not so fortunate, as that is 2 down. Panitom will dunk well away from the collapse into the Ravens. The rotation from Haddix to help turn that team fight around as well, and now sets up for the goal for the Ravens. Doesn't seem that anyone from the Warriors is going to be an answer this time around.
No, it's going to burn so fast. That Heavenly Banner, as well as the damage output from Merlin, makes short work of the Gold Fury. I think it's the wall from Panitom that cost Pegon his life. Crushing Wave, had it been allowed to reposition him, would have likely got him out of the bulk of the damage. It was Ven that does upwards of 60% of Pegon's HP bar. Just locked down by his own ally's wall. Doesn't get to move whatsoever, and is immediately shut down right afterward. It's a good start from the Highland Ravens to rectify what could have been a tumultuous start. The Oni Warriors actually getting the advantage for the first couple of minutes, but with objectives off the map, now the Highland Ravens can rest a little bit, not fight into this incredibly strong Hebo.
Now, one thing that was kind of brought up on the desk by Charlie, and something we'll get to see as the evolution of this team goes on throughout either just this event and obviously in towards phase 1 as well, but kind of the question mark of this team. It's a lot of very mechanically gifted players on the side of the Oni Warriors. You look at Pegon, a performance he had in his rookie year, SOT, Jake, all these players on this squad. But it's kind of the question of how much cohesion is there on this team? You know, how well does this group work together as a full squad compared to a team like, say, the Highland Ravens, who has 3 players who were just playing together on the previous season and whatnot. Probably something we'll get to see a little bit more as the season breaks out.
Yeah, for now, it's just how are you looking? What's the draft going to be? What portions of the game are you keeping your eyes on? We can get an idea of the Oni Warriors on whether or not they're going to be an objective-focused team or if it's a late-game team fight. With the draft as it is, it looks like a pick composition to me, which would play into the mechanical nature of this team. All right, well, we're better at pushing our buttons, so let's just push them with picks that can fight on their own as solo agents. And for the most part, it's exactly what the Oni Warriors have got here. But if the Highland Ravens are able to leverage their team fight composition, as any comp is with the Cthulhu, could make it difficult for the Oni Warriors to play around that. I wonder, though, Cthulhu feels like kin size was always the answer to him, and with kin size now doing upwards of 6% per auto attack so long as you're above 2,500 HP, might make it even easier to deal with that Descent into Madness a little bit later on. Keep me honest, though, J-Mac, there's 70 god changes, 60 item changes. It's really hard to lock down. Did his healing take a hit on Cthulhu?
Yeah, Cthulhu healing did take a bit of a hit. Got some extra damage in the mire to replace that, as well as a little bit of extra attack speed reduction from that first ability when slamming not in the Descent to Madness transformation state there. So a little bit less healing overall in that regard, but get some little additional help across the board. And that's kind of the name of the game for every god that either had some kind of self or team-based sustain, is less healing, but a little bit of extra bump elsewhere.
Yeah, and more damage on a Cthulhu is certainly scary. Seems like Haddix might even be playing aware of an HP stack coming back to bite him. So it's Breastplate of Valor in second slot. Good CDR infusion. Already plays well with that Pythags piece, essentially making him an off-tank through sustain and helping out the rest of his team around him. That Aura passive, giving over power and lifesteal, will help out a whole lot so long as he's hovering nearby Van or even BaRRaCCuDDa in the backline.
Scream. Blink in on top of Pegon. Beads immediately expended. The taunt will grab Awesome Jake once more, but he is locked in place for the damage from Venenu. SOT rotates over, but there's not much that he can do except give a little bit of health back over to Pegon. A 3-stack in the mid from the Ravens. We'll just be able to take at least the Bastions out. Not going to get any damage on the tower, unless maybe Haddix has something to say about it. He rotates over a little late to the party as well, but Highland Ravens once more with another pick.
Yeah, I'm loving this combo of Hurriwind and Ven. Just Shadow Lock and do whatever abilities you got, Ven. Doesn't matter what stance you're in, it's going to be enough damage. And Jake, the recipient of that damage, figuring that out very quickly, will likely itemize towards a dedicated magic defense item very shortly. Needs to be concerned about that going forward. Ymir already so immobile, even less so with a Nox on the other side. So the Highland Ravens have found their target early. 1 and 2 for both the support and mid laner of the Oni Warriors. Pyromancer's going to be spawning soon. With Primal Fury up on the other side, it's not as if the Ravens can just roll through the neutral objective on the right. Instead, I think it's going to come down to picks first. Which one of these teams strikes, and where do you go afterward? Primal Fury is just the more premier of the two objectives.
Pegon on the hobble has been the recipient of a lot of the aggression from Scream. So far, 2 deaths on the mid laner for the Oni Warriors. Did get the solo kill on Venenu earlier on. That's helped him at least be able to maintain even as far as the experience is concerned. But Venenu now part of 3 of the kills of the 4 for the Highland Ravens. Scream still sitting at 100% kill participation, maybe a little more. Panitom finds the stun on Hurriwind, but hammer off the mark. Maybe just because of the knockup from Pegon. But take a look. I am baffled by how often Haddix has been able to make his way over towards this mid lane. Even if he's not there for a kill, he has been rotating constantly to this fight. And maybe it can help out here, because Hurriwind is going to certainly have to go back to base.
Jake now caught in no man's land, takes a whole lot of damage. Haddix dash forward, but no ultimate. Now the fight's separated. It's a descent into madness for the escape.
Turn around onto Panitom, almost takes him down. One more shot from Haddix would have done it, but he's not going to find it there. Instead, it's SOT now joining the fray. Goes and finds the stun on top of Hurriwind, knocked up and taken down. Netrioid, credit to the kill there, but set up it all the while there for SOT and Jake to keep this one going. And now maybe a Pyromancer started for the Warriors.
Pyromancer pulled, Scream nearby. Ven as well, very healthy. Could close gap, but these jungle corridor fights, dangerous with Jake on the Ymir. That wall locking down entire pathways creates so much space and buys the Pyromancer for the Oni Warriors. That was an interesting team fight in mid. I really thought it was going to be a disengage call there from the Highland Ravens, but Haddix's damage output just enough, nearly able to secure the kill. Maybe baits forward the rest of his team ever so slightly, and it's Hurriwind who pays the price. I think, though, we've got a good idea of how much damage this Cthulhu is already doing, and it's significant. The Oni Warriors maybe don't want to let the Highland Ravens regroup. Potential to pull the Primal. Instead, it's a reset back to neutral. Now neutral objectives desync, though. The Highland Ravens, with their superior team fight composition and already an upgraded teleport from Haddix, who's shown his propensity to rotate already, might just head over to the Fury.
SOT, no teleport to his name. Ultimate's still available. Would take him a while to maybe join the fray over on the left side of the map, but for the time being, does not seem that that's where the Highland Ravens have averted their attention. Instead, Hurriwind can try and knock out this shield buff at least. Netrioid standing by. Jake on the roundabout does find the double freeze on the Scream and Hurriwind. Ult from Netrioid just off the mark. And Scream will try and get through. The wall is just off the mark, and the heal will be there for Scream. But now Haddix teleports in, right side by side with Venenu. Pegon is already ulted out of the fight. He has nowhere else to go. With SOT joining in, could be dangerous for either team. But Netrioid is the first one out of the team fight. And a dunk in from Panitom to slow down Scream makes it a 1-for-1.
1-for-1 for now, but the Highland Ravens seem to want a bit more. Panitom not only separates the fight, but does it again with the wall and forces the Highland Ravens to fall back. That was looking awful for the Oni Warriors, and it's the jungler on this Thor that turns it around. The Ravens still in the dominant position, have established defensive positioning around the Primal Fury. The Warriors want to, they're going to have to check, walk in themselves. It's going to be a fizzle from here. These fights have just been so scrappy.
Haddix caught by the wall, freezes there, and all the damage in the world by Pegon, but can there be a turnaround for Ven and Hurriwind? Doesn't seem so, as Venenu is completely out of mana, and BaRRaCCuDDa
Where we going?
too far away. To pull to the Primal Fury instead for the Oni Warriors. They got Haddix and maybe additional, because now Netrioid is back from the grave. Primal Fury will go unanswered. The Oni Warriors take one
Good
kill,
wall.
take an objective, maybe another one. Hurriwind just enough mana to dash out, and that will be the end of the fight for the Warriors. That is a pick plus an objective.
A big objective at that. Makes it easier to grab the Fire Giant. We're rapidly approaching the portion of the game where Fire Giant is a feasible option. I would like to see the Oni Warriors start to emphasize a little bit more so playing around Pegon. If you can keep him alive through some of these fights, he can benefit from the passive of Spear of Desolation. This Hebo is clearly a win condition, and one that the Highland Ravens haven't necessarily got the best answers for. The only thing that's really stopped Pegon are the walls, and the walls are on his team, so play aware of it and be able to do a bit more there. The Highland Ravens, on the other hand, I mean, their win condition is clear. If Haddix is in ultimate, your fight looks good. If he's not, hasn't looked so great.
Tier 1 towers, the answer back for the Highland Ravens, at least for now, but still no level 12 on Hurriwind. maybe now begs the question, Mifflin. Do you think maybe we see a Phantom Shell picked up by Hurriwind with how much these walls have been catching him and his teammates out? You think that's an option for him, or at this point, do you forego it to try and get something else?
It feels really bad to be forced to pick up a Phantom Shell for a Ymir wall or for a Thor wall because those are on such a short cooldown, and getting caught is so fast. Immediate Phantom Shell, cancel the Ymir wall, you've got it back up in what, 7 seconds, 8 seconds? Whereas Phantom Shell, you're waiting for a couple of minutes. So it is a viable option, to be sure, but it is one that you don't want to have to take. Instead, you'd much prefer to look at maybe team fight relics, things that allow you to chase out some of these fights, or a Bracer of Radiance as an additional ward, as well as essentially just a frenzy for your team. We'll see, though. This might be a while, though. Hurriwind has been struggling to find farm.
Yeah, it seems every point of farm has been either taken away from him or at least gate-kept by the Oni Warriors. Both bastions go down. Tier 1 tower may be short to follow, but the minions get taken out quickly. Hurriwind on the rotation, finds the silence and the lock onto just Jake, but that's a very tanky Ymir and not a very tanky Nox. Hurriwind able to dash back, but a triple wall by Panitom and maybe a little more. Hurriwind, one more shot from going down. It's Pegon who puts him out, but it's 1 for 1. Now Jake at a quarter HP, a dunk in by Panitom to the back line. Zones out BaRRaCCuDDa and Venenu, but Scream has already found a double kill and is full HP in this fight.
Look at that.
Now being batted away by Netrioid. The crits rate through, and the SoloOrTroll will put him down. Haddix knocked up and knocked down. It is a near deicide, only BaRRaCCuDDa left alive as the Oni Warriors only lose 2.
Panitom is doing so much from the shadows here. The dunks to separate the fight, keep Venenu and BaRRaCCuDDa out. Netrioid stands his ground and just takes the fight straight into Haddix. That lifesteal may have taken a hit in 10-3, but could have fooled me with how long Netrioid is able to fight in. But this might be too much. If Hurriwind could close gap, Net and Panitom already low.
This Fire Giant is not going as quickly as the Ravens may have hoped. Shadowlock
Big
off the
whiff.
mark, gets a coin toss for the Fire Giant here. Hurriwind dashes a little too early, and he will go down. And a Fire Giant now around all 5 of the Oni Warriors as Pegon and Jake have respawned for this fight. And now with only a 2,000 gold lead to start this one up, the Oni Warriors have found a major objective.
Yeah, but there's 6 towers to collect gold from, and a Fury spawning very shortly at that. Pegon dies without even using the ultimate in that last fight. Gotta imagine this Hebo's got a little bit more in the tank, a little bit more to share in some of these engagements. We've got a better look now at how the Oni Warriors team fight really stacks up 5-on-5, and it is gross. There's a lot of CC combos that aren't affected by DR here. The knockups from SOT, from Pegon, off the back of a stun from Jake or from Panitom really do just disrupt that backline from the Highland Ravens. The answer has got to be the attempted dive, right? If you have Haddix move in, similarly what we've seen from Panitom, you can really prevent some of that damage follow-up from Pegon or even from Netrioid. I think Netrioid might be the biggest target here, considering Pegon has been playing haphazardly with his own life. Otherwise, though, who's following up on the dive? It's got to be Scream, but he's gone down a glass cannon build here, all auto attack. Difficult to channel all those autos when the burst potential of the Oni Warriors is so high. I think Haddix, he's got a tough task ahead of him, but he's got to do it. He's the only one that can separate the back line and create some space for the Ravens.
Minions will make their way into the tower, knock up onto Haddix, get some decent damage and poke onto Cthulhu, but the wall from Jake will keep the Ravens away, and a Tier 2 tower will crumble. Still 3 more left standing on the map, and the Oni Warriors will now move towards the mid-Tier 2. Enhanced minions now on the way from the Oni Fury going down. Should mean that the Warriors have a little extra time to play with. Jake went in, found a freeze onto nobody this time around. He's actually losing a lot of HP back. Haddix, not quite enough to slow this one down. Scream will dive in and take down Jake, but has cost so much of Haddix's HP all the while. Panitom in, Panitom down in the backline. BaRRaCCuDDa with barely a sliver of HP left. Hurriwind locks in SOT under the tower. Scream has got a massive taunt to the backline as well. Stunned out, knocked up, and knocked down. Not enough healing back as Pegon and the Warriors shut him down.
Man, Scream with a 4-man taunt and a perfectly punished true combo. Just makes it easier for those 4 people to look directly at you. Nobody else from the Highland Ravens in range to defend and follow up. Had he had just a little bit more damage from Ven, had Haddix been able to stick around, could have been the difference maker there, but the Oni Warriors had the numbers advantage and able to take not only the tier 2, but the jungler's life. And we talked about it, what was it, a minute, 2 minutes ago, is what, 1,000 gold lead? It seems to have ballooned a bit out of control here with only one tower still standing for the Highland Ravens. That said, though, it's a little bit later into the game. The majority of the Highland Ravens that need levels are starting to approach that level 20 point. Then at 19, BaRRaCCuDDa at 18. Could still stick around in some of these team fights. Difference being is, if BaRRaCCuDDa takes a 1v1 up against Netrioid, you just lose because he's got crit. Can't exactly fight up against the poke potential of Panitom. I'm thinking for the most part, the Highland Ravens likely will play around their base defense. Don't take the engagement in neutral territory. Don't step up to this Fire Giant. We had heard it from Captain Twig earlier. Sieging into Merlin is miserable. There's a Merlin on the side of the Highland Ravens. It simplifies your decision-making. Play around your Phoenix.
The Oni Warriors now buying for a little more time before the Fire Giant respawns onto the map. About 15 seconds, if even that, until we see a push there. And the Highland Ravens does not seem that their answer is to go for this objective themselves or even put up any kind of defense. Everybody's spread towards the middle and left side of the map. Maybe go for a tier 1 tower, a couple of buff steals at most. But Fire Giant for the Oni Warriors, no answer back. Hurriwind the closest person through, but too many walls to prevent an Ox Ultimate from going through. Instead, we see BaRRa and Screammmmm split pushing on the left side. Once they hear the Fire Giant, though, it's a back from the entirety of the Highland Ravens to go towards defense.
Got to get there quickly. Panitom has done a good job of pushing up to tier 2 already. So the bird now under threat. This is the least valuable bird on the map, but when you're playing fast, it's an easy way to get to, especially after the Fire Giant. This is dangerous, though. Merlin, of course, great DPS, the initiation factor of Screammmmm. Haddix is getting poked a whole lot before the fight. It's not easy to poke him. He's playing behind his own Phoenix.
SOT charging ultimate. The entire team of the Warriors goes to the left Phoenix instead. A couple of runic bombs available to try and take this one down quickly, but it's not falling fast enough. Instead, it is Pegon's health bar that has been melted. Haddix is up in the madness. Not doing a lot of damage yet. Panitom will dunk in on top of a knockup, and that is going to be so many members of the Warriors low and trying to escape this fight. Netrioid knocked up once more and burned down by Venenu. Goes down Jake. Panitom hammers out SOT, the only healthy one left on his team.
Man, Screammmmm read that perfectly. To the skies,
What?
immediately answered by a 5-man taunt from Screammmmm. Even catches Panitom afterward. And he's got the God flank behind 3.
Will spot them out, but not going to approach without the rest of his team. Quick blink out by Pegon, a dash in by Hurry, but he doesn't find anybody. Instead, the Highland Ravens will regroup themselves, stop their push to the left, and instead head back towards the Fury.
Screammmmm, just by standing behind that 3-man core of the Oni Warriors, forces the blink from Pegon, takes away one of the initiation tools from the Order side. The Highland Ravens, they've been watching a lot of the Kings games, it would seem. Genetics has shown everybody exactly what Horus can do, especially on Siege, repositioning. And Screammmmm answers it perfectly. The Highland Ravens from the brink, able to keep their base alive. The left side bird's going to be weak for a little while. There still is one runic bomb in pocket of SOT. Wonder, had he dropped it on that Phoenix, maybe things are a bit different there, but regardless, hold on to it and make Fire Giant a bit more simple. The Oni Warriors had done such a good job up until this point, even with a clean team fight to the Ravens. I'm still not certain that they're willing to step up and defend the fire.
Highland Ravens have at least taken a couple of Fire Giant buffs off, though not the most ideal targets. Taken away from Jay, gets rid of the sustain for the support, and off of Panitom, who has to be within the melee range to get the real value of it on those birds. Really in much of the fight. So it seems that this Fire Giant buff will kind of fall by the wayside for the Oni Warriors and will now have to set up for the next one. You feel now with maybe kind of the time that the Ravens have bought, the defense they made, that you think maybe this is a Fire Giant that they can step up towards? Or you think that this continues to be, let's keep defending at our birds?
It's hard to say. You get so much more value from these Ymir walls in the jungle. Might just find the value now. Good ultimate from Haddix to avoid that freeze. Had freeze connected. I think Haddix likely just dead there. Base defense looked real good from the Highland Ravens. You're still playing in a massive deficit. I think I'd probably decide to stick around my own Phoenix. Especially, you're not really beating out Pegon on secure. Water Cannon might just be the hardest hitting individual ability on the map. Not even taking into account Crushing Wave. I think I'd prefer to see the Ravens just play the defense again.
And kind of talking about the composition of the Oni Warriors again. You mentioned a lot of very pick style of gods, you know, gods that each individual player can find some success on, find some wins. It has me a feeling of almost like a rank style of team where you're trying to be the carry for your team each time around. You're trying to be the one to set up and get things going for your squad. The Oni Warriors were able to do just that, at least for the first about 25 minutes of the game or so. But now seem to have hit a bit of a wall up against the Highland Ravens. Strong defense by the Ravens team kept the Warriors at bay on the right side of the map. Now the Warriors will group back up to the opposite end there once more. Fire Giant, not going to be a contest. Ravens are just going to let this one go once more.
Fire Giant, though, was 2 minutes out from being enhanced, so backdoor protection still there for the Highland Ravens. 2 runic bombs in pocket means the Oni Warrior siege has simplified a bit. I wonder, with 2 bombs in pocket, maybe you don't go for the SOT ult me to the opposite side of the map play and instead just play it a true siege. Left side bird has already regenerated the majority of his HP at that, so the Highland Ravens have got a completely healthy base here. No significant advantage to the Warriors, barring the Fire Giant on all 5 of their wastes. The answer has got to be for the Warriors is find someone that can dive Ven. If it's Panitom dunking into the back line, he's got both relics, so can immediately beat Aegis and try and escape on his own, or have Jake try and lock down Ven himself. Because outside of Ven, the base defense is weak from the Highland Ravens. Descent into Madness and Merlin are the only 2 tools you're really concerned about at this point. You can even, for the most part, ignore BaRRaCCuDDa. Hasn't got his impact Deathbringer just yet. Instead, it's Demon Blade as the only source of crit, and it's not exactly the best source. So instead, just completely all in. All your eggs in the basket of shut down Ven. The Highland Ravens, though, I mean, their job is just as simple. Keep Ven alive.
Panitom has been one to really get set up for his team as these fights have gone through. 3- and 4-man dunks throughout the duration of this game. One here under the Phoenix could set up massive for the team. SOT will get a wall in front of him from Jake to block most of the damage thrown his direction. Scream takes a little bit of poke, I assume there, from Panitom. And Pegon lurking through the jungle, but left side Phoenix is going down swiftly. Netrioid's got a lot of damage, even without an enhanced Fire Giant. The Bird's HP is not standing for much. SOT, once again, standing at the forefront, but all the CDR into his build so far, the natural CDR, he's getting that heal up very frequently.
They're holding on to the bombs, the Oni Warriors. 2 in pocket still, SOT and Panitom hold on to theirs. It's a 2-man split in mid with 3 on left, and the Oni Warriors just might break the base.
Well, 1 bomb by Jake will take down the Phoenix. Pegon and Panitom in the mid lane. Not going to get anything onto that bird just yet, about half of its HP taken out so far. Panitom holding on to the other of the 2 runic bombs means that this Phoenix could also go down, which is a couple of steps up from the Oni Warriors. But they are taking this very slowly. Another wall by Jake and an ultimate by Haddix to get the fight started. Double root by Scream was nice, but immediately the Oni Warriors will back out.
That disengage just too fast. Haddix does not have the lockdown to keep them all there. And, well, Hurriwind was just playing a bit too far back. So now, one of the 2 major team fight tools lost.
Jake losing a lot of health from the combo of Hurry and Venenu. Nearly goes down with some extra poke from Scream and BaRRaCCuDDa. Jake is going to have to go back to base, and that seems to be the end of the siege for the Oni Warriors. Fire Giant has now worn off of the entirety of the team, and a full back to base with only 1 bird taken out during the fight.
So surprised that Panitom holds onto the bomb for that entire siege. You can kill the bomb, auto attacks take it off the map, but if Jake just walls off the auto attackers, Ven, BaRRaCCuDDa, Panitom can walk up, drop that bomb, mid-Phoenix would have fallen. Instead, reset back to neutral. Get ready, Fire Giant's about a minute out. The Highland Ravens now have their base broken, and the enhanced waves are already starting to work their way down the left-hand side. Means that you're not exactly favored on your next base defense. You're still very good at it. You still have a Merlin, but you're going to start slowly losing by rote.
Scream has the bubble, but the bubble's not going to get him through a wall. Dropped down by Awesome Jake, and credit to the kill for Panitom. SOT to the sky only by himself. Maybe Pegon will be able to join him. Full retreat back to the right side as Fire Giant has once again crawled back up onto the map. Pyromancer once more for the Oni Warriors. Will give them, well, another runic bomb in pocket. Maybe we'll see this one go to use as Now both of them on Panitom this time around.
Panitom's going to save it for the perfect moment. Has been doing so the entire game so far, and now with 2. Could make quick work of either one of these Phoenixes. Fire Giant on all 5. 20 seconds left on Scream's respawn. So I agree with this call. Generally, it's, all right, we got fire, let's reset, get ready. Don't need to when you still have the 5 versus 4 advantage and everybody healthy on the Oni Warriors. Best of luck to the Ravens. It's going to be a tough defense.
Hands fire at that. Runic Bomb 1 drop. There goes the Phoenix. Still one more in hand. Maybe. Let's just take down the mid one swiftly. And now, Scream has respawn on the map. Be a 5v5 once more with only one Phoenix alive at low HP for the Highland Ravens to defend against.
Enhanced wave already starting to knock on the door on right. Left side, not too far behind it. And mid, Phoenix should fall. Good wall from Jake. Keeps SOT relatively healthy. But the bomb does finish the work. And now there are no birds remaining for the Highland Ravens. What's it look like from here? Do the Oni Warriors back and reset and spend up all their gold? Should be plenty in hand for just about everybody. 3,000 nearly for the 3-man core of the Oni Warriors. Why risk it? Just go ahead, head back to base. Left side Phoenix will likely respawn by the time the Oni Warriors are able to regroup and work their way all the way across the map. A clear focal point for this team that the Highland Ravens will have to play around. But killing birds doesn't do anything in of itself. It's about taking down the Titan, and so far, the Highland Ravens have really been resilient on their defense. Seems as if the Oni Warriors is struggling to find that one pick that could really open the door. Scream, the only one that's really susceptible to those walls now, that you're playing almost entirely in your own base. Ven has largely gone untouched for the last 15 or so minutes. BaRRaCCuDDa been playing very far back as well. Maybe it's just deal with the front line. Maybe that's the strategy the Oni Warriors need to look towards. The CC combo of wall into multitudes of knockups could make it difficult for Haddix or Scream to find the positioning they need to get involved.
Maybe the final push here for the Oni Warriors. Another Phoenix respawned and left. The low HP on said Phoenix for the Highland Ravens to defend once more. No runic bombs this time for the Oni Warriors, but still an enhanced fire giant. SOT will walk up. The combo from Hurriwind misses. He dashes into the middle of the team. Throws out the ultimate on to Netrioid. That might be enough to just keep him alive for now. But it's a freeze on top of Haddix. A dunk by Panitom just off the mark. But that wall damage nearly could have taken Venenu out if that bead Aegis were not available to him. The Oni Warriors get a lot of relics off the Ravens and could now maybe push towards the Titan.
Yeah, keep your eyes on Pegon. Still has that blink, and with no relics on Ven, a clear target for him. A blink knock-up ultimate would be just enough, but happy to just poke out Hurry.
Jake finds a freeze after the wall, but Hurriwind able to dash away. Come down is SOT, but it's only to get some help over for Panitom. Titan not taking a lot of damage so far. Sustain still there, if only slightly, for the Oni Warriors, but the Highland Ravens hold on to their base.
For now, but with minion waves leaking into every single lane, it's only a matter of time until the Oni Warriors find their opportunity. Again, it's, what, 2 minutes entirely until Ven gets access to that Aegis once more. This Merlin, very susceptible.
Hurriwind almost down, not quite. Needs a little bit of extra work from Jake. A Panitom in the sky. Pegon is dropped by Haddix, and Panitom will find the dunk off Venenu. The carry is down, but SOT bails out Panitom, taking out BaRRA, and now it is Jake and Panitom surging up with SOT, but Scream is doing a lot of damage. Double freeze on to Scream and Haddix. The Mire comes through from Haddix. That's not enough to take out Panitom. The hero with the proc kept him alive, and now Haddix falls down, and it's a quadra kill for Panitom. And the Oni Warriors will take game number 1.
Heroism, that is the first time I've seen it be that impactful in a team fight. Panitom goes absolutely crazy for his team there. An overcommitment onto the kill from Pegon cost them greatly. It was Haddix, I believe, that chases him down there, puts him in no man's land, and is immediately turned upon by the jungler. I love everything I saw from that Thor. We knew Panitom has always been that guy out of the jungle. Maybe now everyone else needs to take notice in the league. Maybe take him off the Thor.
Maybe remove him from the Thor, maybe try and take some pressure away from Pegon as well, because, man, an early solo kill onto Venenu, started getting flashbacks from one of their old matchups back when there was the Dragons versus the Bolts. Really just felt like this is, like I said, kind of a ranked style of comp. Everybody just W-King forward, finding those kills,
It really was a W key game,
It
wasn't
really
it?
just felt like it. It felt like almost the entire time was just, we're just going to run it down. We're going to hope that we can beat them. Unfortunately, the brick wall that kind of came up was the defenses at the Phoenix, at least for the Highland Ravens, that were able to kind of delay the game a bit.
Yeah, it's so nearly impossible to siege into that Merlin, even with strong siege picks like Hebo, who could just knock up water cannon, all of a sudden one guy has to go back to base, or the walls from both Thor and Ymir separating that engagement. That Merlin was just so difficult to deal with. It almost single-handedly extends that game by, what, 10, 15 minutes? If it's any other mage, I think that one closes out much faster.
Well, the Oni Warriors start out strong in game number 1. They take the lead in this best of 3. Can they keep it up and make it a clean 2-0 out? We'll have to find out for game 2 right after this break.
Well, the Oni Warriors answer our questions, maybe and then some, come in and find themselves a 1-0 win. And it's a good look there in game number 1 to see what these teams have to offer. And of course, if you want to look good, you can do so by going to either shop.smiteproleague.com or shop.hi-rez.studios.com/SPL. And of course, getting yourself some of the fantastic merch made by our partners over there at Skulls. If you were at Worlds, they made a lot of fantastic products. And of course, they are keeping that up this year. The Ravens joining the league, getting the jerseys, the t-shirts, and of course, the hoodies that you're going to be able to find. The jerseys, I think, look amazing. The hoodies for everyone look amazing. And of course, if you want to find not just the Ravens, but any of our teams here in the SPL, you can just go to shop.hi-rez.studios.com/SPL or go to SmiteProLeague.com and just click on merch, and it'll take you right where you need to be. Rep your favorite teams in whatever way you find comfortable. Look good, just like the good look we got at these two teams. Trelly, the way they play and the way that this game went, a lot of back and forth, ebbs and flows.
Yep.
Some other word and phrase that means pretty much the same thing I just said as the last two. All three of those things really did give us, I think, a good highlight of some of the strengths these teams have, some of maybe the weaknesses that they're coming into this with. But we get a Warriors victory, which I think is maybe just a little surprising to me, knowing where they were, kind of how we had, as you had mentioned, seeded them coming into this. I think it's just really fun to watch them come out. They were all smiles walking through the hallway as well. Definitely a team that is capable and showcased it.
Well, that's the thing. We were questioning, is this Oni Warriors roster one that's just going to let all of these mechanical players shine, or will their styles clash? And in this game, there was a bit of clashing, of course, but it seemed like everyone did their job. I think Panitom had a fantastic performance on the Thor. Some early ganks over to duo lane. Jake, the walls were on point, as you would imagine. I mean, it's hard to really show out on the Horus pick. You really just have to hit your CC and heal your team, and I think SOT did that very well. And, of course, Pegon on the Hebo also was just hitting big ultimates, as you would expect. I also came into that thinking I wouldn't see much from this Erlang Shen. And I think it's just the pick, man. I don't know what it is about this Erlang that all these junglers are. I want to see it, but so far, the Erlang has not shown out to me. I'm hoping to see something different from Scream in game number 2. It just doesn't feel like you can be as aggressive as you used to be able to on a pick like this.
He was also around for so long last year. I may be okay if he disappears for a little while.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe you have to put him out to pasture. We'll see what the Ravens do with that one. We'll say have to throw, I guess, both under the bus, Lasbra and Adapting. And I know what you're thinking. Neither of them just played. Why am I talking about them? They're the only set so far today that a jungler did not get a quadra kill.
Unlucky.
And so whichever one of them, they both had an option to be able to do so, and haven't been able to do so. So, of course, maybe dropping it there. Really good look for Panitom there at the end, 7-1-7. Finds a lot of those kills at the game-ending play.
Yep.
And so really well done, I think, from him as well as Twig earlier, as well as Oath this morning. And a lot of fun to be had. I mean, this is still day one of a kickoff. Like, this isn't even the regular season yet. We don't know what the divisions are, and they are still making sure things are exciting for us. So we get to see how that holds up. The Ravens may be looking to put on a show, and we'll see what they can do. Picks and bans for game number 2. Going to be flying at you. And the Ravens will be second pick this time around. So the Warriors may be willing to go to the same route. Actually interesting. We get the ban shift up from the Warriors, and it's the Erlang Shen Trelly that you didn't want to see. Now you get your wish.
I don't have to. I mean, clearly, Scream got active, but let me be clear. Scream always gets active. That is not an Erlang Shen thing. That is a Scream thing. And I felt late game he could have done even more on a more impactful pick, but it looks like the Oni Warriors were tired of it. They didn't like the early pressure. They didn't like how annoying the Erlang Shen was in the early, and they felt, hey, if we don't have that Erlang to deal with, we win this game 10 minutes earlier. That's the mindset behind that ban. Still focusing on junglers, though. They are going to go through with the Mercury as well. Leaving the Ravens to decide if they want to ban some of these annoying Guardians that we've seen in the picks and bans column, the Yemojas, the Terras, that sort of thing. Or even the Ymir. I mean, I think Awesome Jake had some good play with it. It was also a draft that the Ravens had that didn't appreciate those Ymir walls, so maybe just a little bit of a playstyle diff. They don't really have to change that one out. Either way, I'm happy to see Scream on something else just by nature of that late game. It did seem like whenever your team is getting dove that hard, you kind of have to all in, make sure you have your blink, your beads, every single relic. If not much you can do.
Well, there's 4 gods after Ishtar got ignored last time around, 4 that are still standing at the 100% pick ban: Cernunnos, Yemoja, Afro, Terra. Afro is going to at least hold on to that one right now. Some of those, like the Cernunnos, has been picked more than banned. So we'll see what they end up doing here. Thor joins Aphrodite, banned away by the Ravens, trying to stifle a little bit of what Panitom just did. And Yemoja will join the Mercury and the Erlang Shen for the Warriors, wrapping out their 3 bans at the top. So the Ravens have their opportunity to answer back. And Trelly, this has been a very, I think, interesting day. Looking at other top bans, Susano comes to mind, a good performer. And something very specifically Panitom likes to play. Maybe just on the cusp of meta, just comfortable enough. They could risk it if they want to. We had mentioned the Hell last time around and talked a little bit about that. Instead, I need to move a little higher in the HE column. It's the Hebo who gets banned out. So 2 respect bans right off the top from the Ravens.
Yeah, remember last time they took away the Susano and the Afro. This time it's not going to be the case. The Oni Warriors have the opportunity to give that one over to Panitom. The Thor has also been taken away, of course, so Panitom doesn't have to be enticed by that pick either.
Yeah.
Are you really first picking it, though, or are you going to save that for later? Remember, the Cernunnos was very prioritized by the Oni Warriors. They completely looked over Ishtar. No longer 100% pick ban rate at that point, so did not seem like the Oni Warriors or the Highland Ravens really cared. But they're thinking about this one. They have the opportunity to say Susano, they have the opportunity to say Cernunnos, and it looks like they do not want to give the Cern to BaRRA. Whether or not he wants it, doesn't matter. They're just going to grab that one for themselves.
Yeah, we saw his thoughts on Ishtar in Game 1, which was and so we'll see whether or not that ends up coming true. Second time around, you don't have to pick it right here, considering you've already got the carry locked in on the other side. And the 2 times today that we saw carry go somewhere else, it was in solo and did not win. Instead, the Ravens are answering back with some of those power picks we were just talking about. The Terra finally let through for the first time today and picked up by the Ravens almost instantly. Susano locked in alongside it. I mean, Trelly, if you're talking about power, you're talking about damage control. Actually, a lot of things that Terra can bring to the table. The Ravens get it.
They do. I imagine this is what the Ravens were looking for, but I would also guess this is something that the Oni Warriors didn't think they were afraid of, because given the way the picks and bans went out, anyone could have told you that Terra Susano would have been highly prioritized, and the Oni Warriors still wanted the Cern, so they valued it even more so. It's got a good matchup. The Cernunnos deals with Terra and Susano very well with the cripple, and that ultimate, you just drop it at your feet whenever you're getting engaged upon, so making sure the duo lane feels confident is going to be the call, and the Merlin going to be locked in there. It's not exactly Pegon's playstyle, but he plays every mage so well, mechanically speaking. It looks like he just wants to go for more of a safe game, and unfortunately, no more Hurriwind knocks.
This has to be maybe let's call it an ego pick, and the opposite of a respect ban, where Hurry plays it, does not win. Jake now presumably locking it in. Someone who had a 100% win rate on that in the past. We'll see how well the Warriors do with it. I want to go back to the Terra for a second, only because we've talked a lot about healing. and I think worth mentioning because she's been banned out a lot of the time. Healing on both the Monolith and the Earth and Fury, her 3 and her ult, were reduced, right?
Yep.
But she got so much. I mean, mitigations increased, allied damage mitigation specifically, that they're receiving, 5% now up to 10%, so it gets a 5% boost, as well as up to 30 prots while you're standing in the Monolith. I mean, that's really nice, depending, especially with itemization that you can go with it. I mean, you could get some really, really tanky boys inside a small circle area. And so I'm excited to see what the Ravens have to offer with that. The Susano we had mentioned, the Cthulhu locked in once again for Haddix. You had mentioned the Merlin. We talked about the Nox, the Cernunnos. After the top 3, you lean in one way or the other?
Well, given what we just saw, I do want to give some credit over to the Oni Warriors, but the Ravens got a very gross top 3. I mean, Terra, Susano, Cthulhu, that's gross into anyone, let alone the people that are playing those gods.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely leaning over towards the Ravens for now. I would like to see exactly what Panitom wants to go to, if they're going to be benefiting from this beads burn. And Bear goes back to the Hachi. He really does just get in moods. Bear's just like, it's a Hachi day. Don't tell me anything. It's a Hachi day, and that's it. They just have to accept that he's playing Hachi today.
I mean, at the, Phase 3 playoffs, remember, where it was like the only person who had really played Danza was PandaCat. Everybody else was talking about how he wasn't that great and didn't want to try. And then just that day, for some reason, Danza was Bear's go-to pick. If you are looking at it, so Ravens, we talk about that. Now with this lock-in, the Oni Warriors, Trelly, have done something that maybe the Jade Dragons of old have done. If you were looking, I think, at the bingo sheet, the sub-20-minute game,
Yep.
this is the kind of team that gets that pace. Cernunnos, Merlin, Nox, the bottom 2 for the Warriors, Bakasura, and Hades. How do you feel about this draft and maybe how squishy it is?
It is interesting. Baka also got a lot of buffs, so maybe it is just that run it down style of play. You're trying to win early. Late game does not look as good because when I see Susano, I think, the tankier targets are the ones that annoy him. Everyone else he's able to pretty much run through. I don't see tanky targets on the side of the Oni Warriors. However, the Nox silence, the Baka cripple, the Hades, all those things Susano does not appreciate. So if Panitom's able to get to a good start, if SOT is off to a good start, I think it could be really difficult for the Ravens to get online. But if the Ravens get ahead, I don't think they ever come.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever comeback potential. This is a comp that from even or ahead is going to win for free. But the Oni Warriors have that snowball potential.
Yeah. Either the Warriors are in a steamroll or be steamrolled kind of position,
Yes.
whereas the Ravens, like you said, is one that can control the game maybe a little bit more, control the fate from either side. The Bakasura, you had mentioned it because we were talking a lot earlier about the changes, some gods like Chang'e losing the anti-heal, some of the assassins, I think Camazotz at the time was one I was talking about, but Bakasura as well on that list, gaining anti-heal in their kit, as well as, we were, just because we were hyping it up, the cooldown for Horus Dash going down by 6 seconds, and then with I guess the Warrior passive, maybe an extra little bump on that. 7-second cooldown removed from each minion, so only 8 seconds on that, granted smaller heal. Does that allow him to get, are we talking early game Baka? Are we talking mid game, late game? Where is he starting to shine now?
I mean, he is still incredible early game. You get one item, you can find kills if you are able to, get opportune moments or force relics, that sort of thing. But Baka has always been a power farmer, and this game is going to be no different.
Yeah.
I mean, you're running the camps, getting as much as you can, and then I imagine playing through SOT, because up against Cthulhu, if you get that cripple goo down, he just goes up into the madness and hopes he can just outrun you. And if you're a little bit fast or have one movement speed item, you're going to get the value. So I expect to see Panitom on the right side of the map trying to camp this Hades. And if so, again, this snowball could get started very easily for the Oni Warriors.
So Huang, he's been around, he's been doing the thing in mid for a little bit. Anything outside of does it mesh well with the composition? Does it have good matchup into Merlin? Is it bringing anything other than what we've seen out of him for the last few months of play?
He does have some great self-peel. Trying to get away from the Baka could be a good strat, but, even when you're CC immune in Celestial Flight, but, you got to get up there first.
Yeah.
So
That's
if
the
you're
hard
not,
part.
If you're not on point with clicking that button, you can get crippled out of it, stand still, and be like, I have to beat to then jump, and that just feels awful. So you're gonna have to watch your positioning, hold on to those beats. There's a Nox in the game, there's a Hades in the game. Those beats are gonna become increasingly valuable. I imagine it was just a safe pick for mid though.
Well, we'll see whether or not it's safe enough for the Ravens here. They're down 1-0. Will they push us to 3? Let's find out with J-Mac and Mifflin.
Thank you so much, Gore and Trelly. Game number 2 between the Oni Warriors and the Highland Ravens now kicking off. And a couple of very interesting buffs for some of the gods that have come through as discussed by the desk. Terra getting a little bit of extra value from her monolith and from her ultimate as well. Some extra protections and some extra mitigation there. And then talking about you as a jungler, Mifflin, this has got to be a fun one for you on the Baka. That 7-second cooldown reduction removed from Eat Minion. Still keeping a lot of the heal and getting a little bit of anti-heal thrown in the kit as well.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how much the Eat Minion reduction is actually going to change Bakasura's playstyle. I mean, in fight, of course, you'll have more opportunities to use it just because it's on a lower cooldown, but you're a Golden Blade jungler who already clears buffs like in 3 auto attacks regardless. So I'm not certain that it's going to change too much throughout the early or at any point of the game. I think maybe the more impactful of the 2 changes likely is the anti-heal on leap. But I do want to talk a little bit more about Terra because she is ridiculous right now. I know a lot of people and a lot of the fans, when I was watching patch notes live on SMITE.Game, people were like, what did you do to Terra? Her healing is awful now. What is she good for? At max rank, Monolith gives 30 of each protection, and the ultimate gives you 10% damage mitigation. It's crazy. She turns her allies into brick walls. Good luck. You're going to run head first into it, and the only thing you're going to get is a concussion. It is so difficult now to kill anyone so long as Terra is nearby. Ridiculous what she's capable of accomplishing given the right circumstances. If you're playing inside the Monolith, if you've got Earth and Fury on you, you can essentially do no wrong. And it's a W key composition from the Highland Ravens in team fight. Once they're 5 stacked around this Cthulhu, he's now unkillable. The rest of the team's unkillable, and they'll run you down. So I think the desk is right. If the Oni Warriors want to win this one, the early game is of the utmost importance.
Taking a look again at the way these teams are kind of starting their early game, because that's always, when we get a new meta, especially when you change around some of the experience gains within the jungle, you always wonder how that's going to kind of shape up, you know, the first rotation of the buffs and everything like that. Last time we saw Scream go speed to the Cyclops cam. This time he started Cyclops and then went back towards the speeds and actually was able to rotate over a little bit towards that right side of the map for a moment. But it's just interesting keeping track of all the different team starts and kind of how it maybe can even change a little bit of their early game dynamic as well. Jake does find a double silence, a root on towards one. BaRRaCCuDDa barrels at the back end, but Scream is the one in danger now, being chased out by Panitom, but narrowly escapes thanks to the help of his minions.
Yeah, those minions might have cost him had they met a little bit sooner. The additional movement speed Bakasura gets from taking out minions might have been enough to chase out there, but Scream survives narrowly. Horrific Emblems traded on the left-hand side of the map as the fight continues in the jungle. Well, maybe that's what the cooldown reduction does. You can steal camps more easily if it's up every 8 seconds. Scream just watches on and says, well, I can't beat that. He just executes minions.
Well, looks like both supports are doing a good job of keeping each other at bay, so neither of their hunters go down. Back towards the right-hand side, we see Scream finally making his presence known over by Haddix, but Panitom is here once more to keep the chase going. No level 5 available to the Baka yet, so no real way to lock down Haddix or Scream, but maybe with some help from SOT on this Hades, who also received a little bit of a change, coming with his adjustments in the healing balance. Gets a little bit more cooldown reduction with that ultimate on blighted targets now, so might be seeing those abilities come up a little bit sooner in these big team fights.
You're telling me Hades is going to deal damage more often?
More often.
He's already doing so much damage. There's a difference, though, in the Hades build. It's not life-stealing first slot. We've seen a whole lot of, like, Tainted immediately into maybe a Bancroft or something along those lines. Instead, going down the Lost Artifact tree. I wonder. Rada's Hootie's pretty ridiculous. Could be that he goes that way and just utilizes the additional mitigations he gets from Pillars of Agony, dropping his targets low. Could even go down the Doom Orb path. Doom Orb's in a pretty good spot. I won't play the guessing game. SOT will answer it shortly. SoloOrTroll get plenty of farms, so we'll figure that one out in the coming minutes. Otherwise, Haddix sticks to his guns. Likely Pythag's piece in the first slot for this Cthulhu.
We'll definitely have to see where SOT goes. Hurriwind just misses out on the stun against Netrioid. Scream on the way as well. Still not level 5, just ticks over to it now on the Susano. With the help of a couple of minions inside the jungle. But it's now level 5, Netrioid and Jake as well, so Scream will not stick around the left side with no potential for the kill. Seems that he'll make his way to try and wrap around for some farm, maybe a buff steal, or at least just those mid harpies. As Pegon has been left to have to sit under the tier 1 tower, kind of counter to where it was last game, where at this point Pegon's running at Venenu on the Habois and now has been relegated to sitting in the backline on this Merlin.
Has to be concerned about those rotations from Scream. Same with the duo lane now, Netrioid and Jake. Maybe considering trying to defend their neutral camp there, but with Scream hovering nearby, should be just enough to dissuade them from stepping up. Look at Scream's build. That's a slight difference from the standard, a deviation. Hydra Star in first slot.
Wow.
I mean, you've got additional burst potential. It still is good power. You got the CDR, but certainly not something I'm used to seeing this early.
Venenu quickly up. Scream pulls in Pegon, gets some good damage, but Panitom right behind, locks down Scream for a moment. Dueling Dragon just off the mark, but Panitom will dive in with the takedown to find one, but Venenu finds a trade out up against Pegon, a 1-for-1 in the mid lane bout. BaRRaCCuDDa keeping Netrioid under the tier 1 tower. First blood over to the Oni Warriors, but a good return by Venenu.
Man, that was a great bait by Pegon. Just leaps in aggressively, says, there's no way they don't go on me. Similarly, BaRRaCCuDDa able to ult himself out of there. But it was the overstay from Pegon that I think I'm not a massive fan of. Had he just backed up after Panitom gets involved, there's no way for Ven to get that kill. Instead, steps up, tries to apply some of his own poke, and it costs him greatly.
SOT uses his ult to try and keep Scream in, but very mobile on the Susano, able to get away. I'm still wondering what SOT is going to go with this item. He's got to have enough gold in hand to be able to maybe go back. Yeah, 2,700 gold. He could buy anything in that tree at this point. What will it be for the level 8 Hades? Remember, Ratu did get a little bit of a buff with his patch, a little more power, and the passive at a higher threshold now
60%.
for the additional damage. Maybe it could be an option towards him. As you said, he likes to do a lot of damage, already gets a lot of tankiness. Maybe get that extra damage just a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's preventing SOT from backing is his relic selection here. Has not picked up teleport for himself and doesn't want to miss out on farm. So has to stick around a bit more. It's not as if Hades really struggles for it, though. Still has plenty of sustain in kit. Mana buff has been going his way pretty consistently, so doesn't struggle there either. We'll finally head back to base. Well, the rest of the Warriors, they pull the gold.
Fury almost down. The fire stance from the Merlin is enough. And maybe an additional kill in the backline. Scream and Panitom both low. Panitom gonna fight the 1v1, but Scream will take him down with some help from Venenu and BaRRaCCuDDa. Fury to the Warriors, but a pick for the Ravens. Hurriwind able to find a stun up against Jake. And slow down his back over on that side of the map as well. And SOT and Haddix doing what soul laners love to do so, slap against each other for no value, but BaRRaCCuDDa goes in. Just finds the stun up against Jake and turns it around. Now Netrioid stunned by the walls of Hurriwind, body blocked and knocked down. It is a double for the Terra and Hurriwind.
Man, Hurry just baits him in so cleanly. Hook, line, and sinker. Now Pegon caught out here. Damage good, and Ven, credit for the kill. The Highland Ravens may not have taken the objective, but they take just about everything else, completely equalizing the game once more. Actually putting them in the driver's seat so far as experience is concerned. Where is the majority of that experience gap? Duo lane seems to hold a good deal of it. One level for both support and ADC. Ven, one level over his as well. And Panitom, who's nursing about a level and a half, nearly 2-level lead previously, trades his life out, and Scream able to catch himself back up. The only one benefiting is SOT, who's been left alone on an island for the entire game so far. The Oni Warriors, had it been just one for the Gold Fury, even two for the Gold Fury, you don't feel so bad, but it's become too much.
Pegon hit by the Typhoon, dueling dragons off the mark,
Sold
and Pegon
him.
turns it back around. And now it's Venenu in danger as Panitom will chase in, drops the ultimate, and Venenu's life. 2 kills for the mid-jungle combo, and Netrioid and awesome Jake find one up against BaRRaCCuDDa. What was such a great turnaround for the Ravens has now turned sour as the Oni Warriors find 3.
I couldn't even explain. Did they even get a chance to go back? The Highland Ravens must have just stuck around after the fight goes well for them. And it cost them literally everything that they had clawed back. I mean, the experience completely switches sides once more, and the gold lead balloons even further for the Oni Warriors. All you have to do is reset back to base there, and you feel just fine. But now beads are gone for Ven. Haddix force a TP back in the lane, and now already at about a quarter HP, will likely have to head back to base very shortly. Panitom was equal in levels. Now he's 2 up once more. I mean, that is just ridiculous. The game swings, but it swings back just as quick.
Venenu locked down by Jake. Won't be too much. Jake not building into any damage. Surprisingly, because we know Jake, if anything,
yeah.
in the past, Chronos Penny used to be the name of the game for him in the second slot, but instead, maybe slotting towards double aura. Pull back on Netrioid. And a TP in by Scream. Typhoon is good. A dash in. Scream wants the kill, but he may have just given up his life because of no BaRRaCCuDDa. Jumps onto the tower with
out?
them, and they giddy up right on out of there. But now, Pegon on the way. Scream is fine, but Jake is wrapping around the backside.
Scream's
and
good.
Ultimate could do it, but not enough damage. Now it's BaRRaCCuDDa instead, who will lose his life. Jake will lock down Hurriwind, but doesn't seem that that's enough. Just 1-for-1 trade to the Hunters.
Yeah, Jake's thinking to himself, man, it should have been Chronos Pendant. If I had CDR, we'd chase out Hurry, it'd be another one. Instead, though, it's just BaRRaCCuDDa, which is a pretty decent trade, especially considering how much they had really dedicated to that dive. The Highland Ravens, BaRRaCCuDDa's ultimate, Scream's ultimate as well. Blink is maintained, so still able to get involved as the jungler of the Ravens. And he's going to need to get involved soon because Pyromancer's burning real fast.
Once again, Netrioid with an early rotation to this right side of the map to take out a Pyromancer. Now level 10 for him. 3 levels up for Panitom on the Bakasura now in the jungle. 2 for SOT as he's been maintaining that over Haddix. Wouldn't be out of the question for some teams. I mean, we saw during
What is
qualifiers.
going on?
Scream dead on the right side. A solo kill for Panitom. And SOT will get the ultimate out of Haddix. Jake around. Not a lot of tankiness to dive under this tier 1. But Venenu and Hurriwind are here.
No
Pegon
way.
solos out BaRRaCCuDDa. Pegon is just going on a solo mission to every member of the Ravens at this point.
They're better at hitting their buttons, man. The Oni Warriors are just hitting their buttons better. They found the combo.
The ranked all-stars out here, bro, doing it to everybody.
They're running
in
it
every
down
lane.
everywhere. They're just running it down, and the Highland Ravens are getting led across the map by their nose, pulled. Ridiculous. The Oni Warriors have dragged the Highland Ravens into this scrappy pace, and if you're playing their game, they're going to play it better. Just crazy. The lane swaps, the individual plays, Panitom's performance now in 2 games has just been perfect. 4-level lead. Worth noting, we haven't got to talk about this just yet. If now Panitom kills Scream, he gains nothing. Scream is worthless to this man. Dirt. Not worth the time it would take to use an ability. Not worth the cooldowns. Ridiculous. And now he's got crit too. Panitom's going to kill everyone.
I guess also, well, now not with BaRRaCCuDDa hitting over to 11. I was going to say it's the same thing for BaRRaCCuDDa and Hurriwind too, where it's just not worth Panitom's time, but might as well try and keep a man down. BaRRaCCuDDa forced onto the cavalry to get out once more. And he'll have to go back to base. No tier 1 tower to defend him. Netrioid and Jake continue pushing up. Panitom has now found Hurriwind, level 15 on the Bakasura.
It's not worth
and
it,
fighting
Kenny.
back in. Typhoon available, does slam into Panitom, but it's not enough. Scream is being zoned away by Awesome Jake, and Awesome Jake alone holding 3 players back. And Venenu just being able to join the fray, but look at the low health bars of the remainders of the Oni Warriors. Might not be able to stick around for this Primal Fury. The Highland Ravens healthy enough to do so.
Jake is the same level as the carry of the Highland Ravens. Level 11. 1 over the jungler at that. Scream has been effectively handled this game. He has been shut down completely at every turn. Panitom has fought him at back camps and stolen speeds.
Wait, the Warriors were all at like a quarter HP. The Ravens hit 3 people over half health, 2 of them full.
Well, they went back to base.
And it's the Warriors who take a Fury instead. Myth, what is happening this
He's
game?
level 16. Okay, Scream's getting active.
Oh, okay, Jake actually...
Scream is on full tilt.
Okay, Jake just killed Scream. And now Panitom just goes for more.
This one's worth it.
Venenu's still worth something to Panitom. at least for a moment, jump off the mark.
Doesn't need
Venenu
it.
misses. Aegis is
He's too
suspended.
fast.
Hurriwind is doing his best, but the dragons aren't there. Panitom's level 16, killing spree for him. The Oni Warriors are just W-king the entire map now.
Panitom's starting to upset me because he is challenging my fundamental view on MOBAs as a genre. I have so often said this is a game and genre that you cannot play and win on your own. He's actually clowning this guy! Go back to base and think about the errors of your ways, Scream! That wasn't even worth it for him! He did it to send a message! He gained nothing from that. In fact, Panitom lost. He gained a shield and he lost his ultimate. That was worth nothing. Scream, think about it, I guess.
I want to note that Panitom is so far ahead of Scream, the Typhoon didn't even break the shield of Panitom.
Perfect.
Panitom had to wait for it to expire and have the jungle take it out. He's level 17 at 14 and a half minutes.
J-Mac, the devs patched this out. We've removed leads from the game. There are comeback mechanics. You can't kill them and gain anything anymore. And Panitom has simply spit on our design philosophy as a company and is doing it different. This guy moves different. I've said it for a long time. Panitom has been the best jungler in the world for a minute now.
It's longer than a minute at this point. It's been 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Of just unfiltered and unhinged destruction.
He's 7 levels up.
Panitom and the entirety of the Oni Warriors. 10-7 is a very deceptive.
He can't kill anyone. It's worthless for him to kill anybody.
It's to prove a point.
It's to send a message. Okay.
Say I am the sole best player on this map right now. That's the level. You know what? Maybe that cooldown reduction did mean something for Panitom because now he can eat twice as many minions and spit on people twice as fast with it.
So many minions this game. That's gotta be it. That's gotta be where the lead came from.
No cooldown reduction.
Doesn't need
if
it.
If he did it on cool, God, he could have eaten like 100 minions. That's bad math. I'm not gonna.
It's a 7-second cooldown, and there's been a lot of 7 seconds in this game.
Quite
I'll tell you, I'm not gonna
seconds.
do the math either.
I said like 100. Yeah.
Why not?
More or less. Why not? Venenu getting any farm that he can on the map. Hurriwind still, once again, similar to game number 1, now here in game 2, struggling to find that level 12, despite the fact that he's 2-0-3. Hurriwind is 2-0-3. And unfortunate for being the support, which is the worst way to say this, he's the one losing the most out of it because he's not level 12, hasn't been able to get a second relic, hasn't even finished the second item. I honestly kind of feel bad for the guy.
I mean, everyone's heart's got to go out to Hurry here, who has just not been allowed to do anything so far this game. Panitom, I mean, he doesn't even need the farm from killing people. He's going to tick over to level 20 regardless. Maybe just go solo the Fire Giant. This guy is on full Kirito mode. Like, he's breaking the rules of the game. Like, this is not allowed.
Well, made a call for fire, and that's where the Oni Warriors will go. Half health on it. Jake dashes in, finds Scream, forces him out. Haddix into Descent into Madness. How long will that last for him? Hurriwind locked in place in the backline, and SOT 2v1ing for himself. Netrioid finds one onto Hurriwind. Venenu only gets out because Haddix is the ultimate body block
He's
there.
Still going.
Panitom finds the ult onto Venenu. 5 in a row for
they
Panitom.
got him.
The shutdown is there. Scream benefits big now for the Highland Ravens.
Was that 2 levels for Scream?
And the Fire Giant started again, but may need to be dropped by the Oni Warriors. Scream walks up, now level 15 on the Susano. For the Highland Ravens, they got the biggest shutdown on the map. They shut down the level 19 Baka.
Doug, I need it quick. Show me gold in pocket. Scream must have got like, yeah, that's all from killing Panitom just about. I think that was probably 11, maybe 1,200 gold with bounty, plus the 900 standard, plus the level differential.
Good lord.
He got 2 levels and about 1,100 gold from shutting down Panitom. But Panitom's going to gain something back very shortly. Scream is very close to approaching within the 4-level threshold.
Oh no.
And Panitom is going to take notice.
He's got a new target to hunt down.
Finally, I can kill someone.
Oh wait, no, he can kill Haddix and BaRRaCCuDDa now because they're only 3 levels below.
Big for Panitom.
But once Panitom, the good news for Panitom is he's about to cap out his level at 20, which means that everybody else will be coming within range for him to be able to kill.
Yeah, you can only go so far, and Panitom has very nearly made it all the way.
Oh, man.
Over-aggression, though, to be sure, from the Oni Warriors. You don't necessarily need to chase out that far for kills, especially considering how powerful Panitom is. Had he just been on Fire Giant, likely would have burned out in their favor instead. Continues to try and attempt and send his message of domination and just, I suppose, bloodthirst across the minimap. The Highland Ravens, though,
20.
if they are given even one more opportunity like that, might just be within striking distance of the Oni Warriors. It's so easy to forget that the majority of the lead, if not 60–70% of it, does belong to Panitom. The rest of the Warriors ahead, but not as far ahead.
Well, Panitom's 20 now. Has both runic bombs in hand for this Fire Giant that is going down swiftly. The crit's coming through for both him and Netrioid. Fire Giant almost down. The Oni Warriors, no they do not!
Ravens?
The Highland Ravens steal it away? What even took it? Was it Typhoon from Scream? What? At this point could have taken it, but it's SOT down. Haddix leading the charge with the Highland Ravens as now they're the ones who benefit for the Fire Giant buff from all the work that the Warriors did to take it.
They're throwing, J-Mac. It's a throw now. We're over-chasing kills. We're losing objectives to Terra. Absolutely ridiculous.
Terra?
Yeah, it had to have been Terra there. I don't think the Typhoon was even aimed in that direction. Maybe the clap. I mean, it's good damage.
Oh no, it goes back to you can't do objectives around a Terra. This is something at the end of Season 9 we were talking about. And now Hurriwind's bringing it back in Season 10 of the SPL. My goodness, the Highland Ravens, what a stall more than anything against the Oni Warriors, taking the Fire Giant, or maybe as you said, a throw by the Oni Warriors, getting rid of this massive, what was it, nearly 8,000 gold lead that they had up?
Yeah, and the experience was pretty high as well. Experience means less and less as the game goes on, and 5,000 gold is just about nothing when split 5 ways. The Highland Ravens can now start to rally around their team fight composition. The narrative originally was, if the Oni Warriors don't absolutely dominate the early game, they're just going to get run over by the 5-on-5 stack of the Highland Ravens. Descent into Madness plus Earther and Fury giving over 10% mitigations plus all the procs from Monolith. Just play around that. I think they can do it now. The Highland Ravens with Fire Giant essentially equalize everything that the Oni Warriors have got for themselves, and Fire Giant on 5 means you can go start approaching these towers, collecting a bit of gold. It's up to Panitom. Can he do it from a much more even state? I'm not so certain. There are threats now to this Bakasura. He's not 6 levels up on the nearest guy anymore. It's 2, maybe 3.
Netrioid. And really the rest of the Warriors outside of the right hand of the map, trying to approach that level 20 point for themselves. 18s across the top for the Highland Ravens. Haddix, Scream, and Venenu all trying to still play catch-up against their opposition. And the Oni Warriors losing out on a lot of the gold lead they had earlier on, now trying to rebuild it back, but there's nothing on the map for them to rebuild it with. Still tier 2 towers standing on the side of the Highland Ravens, 3 of them. It's been a while since we've actually seen any towers go down on the Ravens side of the map. Hurriwind will unfortunately lose out in the bubble of the nature of Nox existing. And that's 1 defensive measure down, but the Ravens seem to be stepping up towards Primal, but they won't step very far as it's already down to the hands of the Warriors.
I'm surprised the Ravens have played this cautiously. They've got good damage output. Maybe just close to some of these big power spikes need the crit from BaRRaCCuDDa as Hurriwind. He's caught alone.
And nowhere to go. SOT channels his ultimate, keeps it out for the duration of Typhoon as well. He's down to a 3rd, but Hurriwind is gone. Panitom trying to fight up against Haddix, but it's a lot of physical defense now stacked up for the Cthulhu. The Highland Ravens will only lose out on their 1 frontliner in Hurriwind, but he'll be back in about 15 seconds.
Back stronger than before with Magi's Shelter finished up. This tier 2 would be a big get for the Oni Warriors. The Highland Ravens willing to defend, still have Descent into Madness, and Hurriwind only 5 seconds away from rejoining them.
Haddix, though, goes to the backline, finds 3, goes into Descent into Madness in the middle of 4 of them now. Pegon low. Pull back and Scream trying to do as much work as he can, but the knockup is there by
Panitom's full
Haddix.
HP.
But Panitom is just chomping away at the backline. Venenu lands
Someone
into
stop
a
him.
double kill for Panitom. Could very easily be a triple, if not for the slow coming from Hurriwind's relics.
Sock's got
SOT
it.
takes down 1. Sock credit for that one. Hurriwind down. Double for Net. Double for Panitom. DSI for the Warriors. And the set 2-0 to the Onis.
I can't believe the Highland Ravens chose then to draw their line in the sand. All right, You've got the tier 2, but you're not going to get away with it. They did, by the way, the Oni Warriors, that is. They got away with it. And they've taken the game immediately afterward. A game of throws. A song of back and forth, I suppose, here. This is a game that flies in the face of traditional Smite knowledge, flies in the face of 10-3, and I'm here for it.
I love it. I love the insanity that this
Finally,
game
some good
provided.
Smite.
23.5 minutes, our fastest game of the day. And honestly, it might be just one of the fastest games we'll see for a little while with all the new introductions here in 10.3. But we want to talk about players who we don't know what their full team identity is yet as a group, but we know how individually strong each of them are. Seems their identity is just to run it down at the opposition. And it worked really well in this game.
So you're telling me the Oni Warriors are now carrying the spirit of the Jazzberry Jam? Like they're the jammers?
Oh, maybe that's the case, because the other Oni Warriors left to go be Jazzberry Jammers, but...
Wow, that's awkward. That's
Man,
awkward.
This is a little strange for these ones.
Get at it in the comments. Come up with some Jazzberry Jam variation for the Warriors, and we'll push it for you. Best one, I'll credit you.
There we
DM me
go.
on Twitter.
We'll give it a shout over there. Oni Warriors, though, 2-0 in our fastest game of the day, are able to take down their opposition. They'll move on in the event, and we'll throw it over to the desk to keep it going.
Myth, I'm going to see if I can beat people. They've got red in their logo.
Okay.
Raspberry jam? Literally just the actual jam?
No.
Okay. It was worth a shot. Charlie, do me a favor real fast.
Of course.
Lean back. All right, now lean forward. Back and forth. That's exactly what this set was and what this game was. I have no idea why I made you do that, man. It's been a long day.
I'm always down for the bit.
Yeah, and we've been having fun. It has... That was crazy, right? I think fun... I use that word because that's the only way I could think to describe that game.
Yep.
You know, there's mistakes on both sides. There's great plays on both sides. There's a lot of fantastic moments. The Warriors still come out with a 2-0.
Yep.
So very, very... Clean isn't the word I want to use.
No, definitely not clean.
They definitely end the games. They close out the set with a win. I'm excited to see what this team has to offer. I had question marks about them coming into it. I think some of those were answered. Some of them led to greater questions. And so I have yet to see what this team has. But you got to give props where props is due. For a team that definitely had a pretty rough start, they kept things entertaining throughout.
I mean, watching Scream go from completely giving up on this game, like inting under tower twice, to getting a huge shutdown, to really he can try again, getting farmed at a speed buff by Panitom. It was a roller coaster. And yeah, I think verbatim, one of the phrases I said was one of the craziest games of Smite I've seen. But it didn't seem like Panitom could do anything wrong, and it got to the point where he couldn't even kill anyone and actually gain anything because of, as Myth was saying, the comeback mechanics. And then he gives a massive shutdown, and you think, wait, are the tides turning? The Ravens end up stealing a fire giant. But I don't think the Oni Warriors were that worried. They always had that massive lead they were able to build up for themselves.
You know, I bet if this is completely tangential, if I had said like Rizberry or something, like some
Oh,
Gen
Myth
Z
would have
slang,
said that was
Myth
the best
would've
idea
jumped
ever.
in.
Of course. Your first problem was looking for Myth's approval on anything.
Well, I look for a lot of approval, all right? We went over this earlier. We had a really in-depth discussion about my psyche. Speaking of psyches, gotta feel good mental-wise for the Warriors, right? Coming in. Again, everybody knowing, like, you list these 5 players, and like I said to you, it felt like a fantasy draft. It feels like you choose 5 dudes that you know are good at the game, are gonna put up some good numbers.
Yep.
But you would never actually think, yeah, that's the team I'm going to put forward. But seeing them come together in this way, again, maybe not as clean as they would like. I'm sure we'll find out. You know, I can see Sot standing over there, so maybe we'll find out if it was as clean as they wanted, if they have some stuff they definitely want to work on. But I think that this is a good look for the very beginning, and knowing that it's uphill from here, or I guess maybe downhill. It's good for them from here. Good forward. Whatever phrase I need for that has me excited to see what this Warriors roster has to offer tomorrow, and of course throughout the rest of the phase. But you don't got to take it from me. We got Sot standing by right now for an interview.
Yeah, that's right. I've got SOT, the solo inter for the now Oni Warriors team, standing by here at the postgame. So talk to me kind of about, is this kind of the performance you expected of your team coming into an event like this? You'll have Highland Ravens, got some established players who were playing with each other, at least just very recently throughout the SPL, and then you kind of got your Frankenstein's monster of a team kind of coming through here, a bunch of really powerhouse hitters out there. Was this kind of your expectations coming to this set for finding a win like this?
Yeah, I mean, I expected a 2-0. I think my team's really good. Ravens are a solid team. I think we played a bit sloppy. We trolled a few times, but yeah, I mean, I kind of expected it to. I think we could have just done it a bit cleaner and a bit better, obviously. But I mean, and my team is great. It's just a culmination of a bunch of great players from different teams. We have like one player from each of like 5 top teams, and so it's like we can bring together a bunch of knowledge and experience from other teams. We can be like, oh, like this player on that team didn't like this matchup, so we should pick this, or this player always told me to do this, stuff like that. So I think it's actually very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe kind of dive a little bit more in here with me, because we look at this roster, and as you say, it's kind of picking some players from each of the individual top teams throughout the remainder of that season. Was this kind of the idea of this team, kind of since the beginning? You look at some of the other teams, it's a few players from one team, a few players from another team mixing, and then you got your squad out here. Was this kind of the plan, the intention for your team moving into the season?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, like when we started, like I was like kind of with Royd, because I thought Royd is a great player. And then the Ravens made a change, so we had Jake, and Jake and I, we work pretty well. We're good friends, so I'm like, all right, me, Royd, Jake's a pretty good combo. Pegon, was a free agent, so we're like, okay, this is a great combination. And then Panitom was available, and so it just kind of kept coming together, kind of like a snowball. And now it's a monstrous snowball going down the mountain. It's an avalanche. So yeah, I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I think an avalanche might be an understatement after that last game that we just had. 23 and a half minutes, just kind of ran down throughout that way. Tell me kind of what was maybe on the mind whenever Panitom got shut down, because he was kind of running at one point. We're staring at him. He's at the gate of the enemy's throne room at that point, finding a kill on Scream, then gets the shutdown. Was that kind of y'all's kind of gas pedal moment there, or kind of, I should say the brakes for a moment, to kind of regroup and say, okay, maybe we stop trolling around a little bit?
I mean, I don't know. He just found himself up there, and he's like, "Wait, this might be troll, but I'm gonna look for this." And found that we're all pretty, it was pretty funny. And then Pegon was like, "Wait, my turn," and he was wanting to go to like left side jungle and kill Scream on the other side. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we definitely trolled a little bit there. I think we had a few unnecessary deaths, including from me. But overall, I think if you're that far ahead, he was like 8 levels ahead at one point. I mean, you can kind of do a little bit of trolling and still win.
A little bit of trolling still worked out for you guys. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll throw it back to Des to close it out.
All I'm saying is, little trolling, couple more deaths. 5.8 KDA for SOT, 6.8 KDA for Panitom. Looking really, everybody else was 2.8 or lower, so we're not talking about them. We're just talking about the star highlights there. Look, they play it well, and they give us a really good show. Something that I'm sure everybody at home had a lot of fun watching. And of course, if you're at home, probably wondering what the trajectory is from here. 4 best-of-3s today that we close it out. We can look towards tomorrow, April 1st. What I'm about to tell you, though, is no joke. 2 sets, both best-of-5s. The Hounds taking on the Dragons, the Kings taking on the Warriors. And of course, them all fighting still for that first seed you get on Sunday. The right to choose, be the first one in the draft for Phase 1. And, of course, that one's going to be a very fun. But, Trelly, after today, watching the Hounds, I think a very impressive win over the Ferrymen. Dragons maybe stutter a little bit more, but they're up against the Leviathans. It's expected. Right. Kings, of course, your world champion, still in contention. Now the Warriors joining them. I think tomorrow has a lot of interesting matches ahead of us.
It should be exciting. I mean, the Oni Warriors blew away just about everyone's expectations.
Yeah.
We thought it might take some time for these players from all different grasps of the SPL to mesh together, but seeing how well they've meshed already in such little time, and of course the team, I mean, Sot saying this himself, they, despite how much of a snowball they were making, still had some drops there, still had some fumbles, so this isn't their final form, so it should be some exciting matches tomorrow. Not every team that I expected to be in the Final Four for sure, and that just makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, and specifically, I was told the Warriors, if I heard them correctly, are an avalanche at this point.
Right.
I'm excited to see. I don't know how Kings interact with avalanches, but I know how Kings interact with Warriors, and so they definitely have maybe a matchup tomorrow that is going to cause them a little bit of trouble. Sunday also into the mix. I mean, we're talking Phase 1 implications. We're talking the way this tournament can control and shape the next couple of months, months for these teams, all the way in that road to Masters, this long grand scheme view. A lot of fun, I think, that has been had today. a lot that is going to be had tomorrow. Best of fives from here on out. But that's going to do it from myself and from Shelly, from all the casters, of course, everyone here at Hi-Rez Productions. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.